Hello everyone, my name is Rishabh. Welcome to day 192 of our book learning journey. Today's book, The Silk Roads, A New History of the World by Peter Frankopan. Topic, How Trade Routes, Ideas and Cultural Exchange quietly shaped the world. Today, we are going to look at world history from a completely different perspective. When we study history, we often divide it into countries, kings, wars, and empires. We learn about Rome, Persia, India, China, Europe, and the Middle East as if they were separate stories. But what if they were never really separate? What if the history of humanity was actually a history of connections, of merchants traveling thousands of kilometers, ideas moving between civilizations, religion, religious crossing borders, ideas moving between civilizations, religious crossing borders, technologies spreading from one society to another, and ordinary people connecting distant part of the world long before airplanes, telephones, or the internet existed. That is the fascinating idea behind the Silk Roads, A New History of the World by historian Peter Frankopan. The title refers to the network of trade routes that connected East and West across Central Asia and beyond. And an important point is that the Silk Road was not actually one single road. It was a vast network of lands and sea routes through which silk, spices, precious metals, horses, textiles, ideas, technologies, religions, languages, and disease traveled across continents. The book asks us to consider the way we understand world history. Instead of looking at history primarily from the perspective of Western Europe, Frankopan places the regions around Central Asia, the Middle East, Persia, India, and China much closer to the center of the story. And once you look at history this way, you begin to understand something incredibly important. The world has been interconnected for thousands of years. Globalization did not begin with the internet. Human beings have been exchanging goods, ideas, cultures, and knowledge across enormous distance for centuries. Lesson 1. The world has connected long before the internet. Imagine living 2000 years ago. There is no Google Maps, no airplane, no smartphone, no email, no modern highway. And yet, a merchant could travel from one region to another carrying goods that originated thousands of kilometers away. Silk from China could travel westward. Horses from Central Asia could have traveled eastward. Spices from India could travel across enormous distances. Precious metals could move between empires, and along with these products came something even more valuable: information. A merchant didn't just carry a product, he carried stories, he carried languages, he carried beliefs, he carried knowledge about the other societies. This means trade was not simply an economic activity, it was a mechanism for cultural exchange. Every time two civilizations traded, they also learned something about one another. Lesson 2. Silk was more than a luxury product. Why was silk so valuable? Because producing high quality silk was difficult and the technology was closely associated with China for a long period. Silk was lightweight, beautiful, durable, and extremely valuable. But its importance went beyond clothing. Silk became a symbol of wealth and status. It was used by elites and rulers, and because it was valuable relative to its weight, it was ideal for long distance trade. This teaches us something about economics. A product becomes valuable not simply because it exists, its its values depend on scarcity, demand, production difficulty, transportation, culture, or status. A simple piece of fabric can become extraordinarily valuable when the right economic and social conditions existed around it. The, the biggest lessons of the Silk Roads. The greatest lessons from this book is not about silk, it is about connection. Human civilization progressed because people exchanged ideas. They traveled, they traded, they learned, they adopted, they borrowed, they improved, and they passed knowledge to the next generation. Civilizations were never completely isolated. Human history is a network, and the more we understand those connections, the better we understand the world we live in today. What we learn from the Silk Roads. This book gives us several powerful lessons. Trade can transform civilizations. Economic power often follows valuable resources and connections. Ideas travel alongside products. Different civilizations learn from each other. Geography, geography influences economic and political power. Cities grow when they become important networks. Competition and cooperation can exist simultaneously. Globalization existed long before modern technology. Data has become a modern form of economic connectivity. India's history has always been connected to wider global networks. Careers and businesses also grow through networks. Innovation often happens when different fields connect. Core closing message. If there is one lesson we should remember from the Silk Roads, it is this. Human progress has been Human progress has never been a history of isolated civilizations. It has always been a story of connections. A merchant carries silk, another person carries spices, someone else carries a scientific idea, another carries a religious belief, another carries a technology, and somewhere along the journey, those ideas meet, they combine, they evolve, and something new is created. This is how civilization grows. And the same thing is happening today. The difference is that our Silk Roads are no longer limited to deserts and oceans. They run through the internet, through supply chains, through airports, through financial systems, through universities, through technologies, and through every person who shares knowledge with another person. So keep learning from different cultures. Read beyond your own field. Talk to people who think differently. Explore subjects outside your comfort zone because you never know which two ideas will meet inside your mind and create something completely new. Thank you.